Hi, everybody. Welcome to Game On. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of San Antonio sports and exploring what makes our local sports scene tick. I'm Mary Ullmann Japhet, board member at San Antonio Sports and longtime head of communications for our nonprofit sports commission in San Antonio.
And I'm Jenny Carnes, president and CEO of San Antonio Sports.
And we're really excited because we have a super guest with us today. Really needs no introduction. Bruce Bowen, amazing. We're very grateful to have you here, but just by way of introduction, let's just say Bruce Bowen won 3 championships with the Spurs, was named to the NBA All-Defensive Team 8 times while in San Antonio, and of course his number 12 jersey was retired by the franchise and hangs in the rafters. We're so glad to have you here with us.
I'm glad to be here. So let's have some fun today.
And I'm a fangirl right now.
Yeah, I know, me too. I'm just like, this is so exciting. Yeah, I know.
As a basketball junkie, this is really exciting for me.
I know. It's fantastic. And it's, it was so much fun to watch you play. You were a pest, I guess, is what it was the nicest thing some people called you.
Pest,
My
rash.
God, you're the best defensive player.
Did you say rash?
I did. Sean used to say that. Sean said, "Oh, he's the rash." Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. Now I need Neosporin, when people come around. But no, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be able to play this game. Yeah. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I could be where I am today. And this is something that I'm continuously trying to stress to younger kids is that, hey, utilize sport. Utilize it because there's opportunities through sport. I'd say that leather ball has allowed me to get an education at Cal State Fullerton. It's allowed me to see the world. It's allowed me to play basketball in Europe. And then in the NBA, the greatest league there is, I'm still able to do things via basketball. Case in point, just got back Tuesday night from China doing some ambassador duties over there, but it's all because of basketball. And that's the thing I appreciate about it. There's other sports that are okay, but basketball is number one to me.
I know you don't argue.
My favorite story to tell is about the first time I was given a leather basketball and how it just changed my life. The smell, the feel. It wasn't the rubber ball I had been used to. And it was a gift to me and it's just changed my life.
It's funny, we talk about so many things and our touch, our senses and the different things, our smell, hearing the cardboard part of the ball when it comes out of, those little things. We can be so obsessive about certain things. And when it comes to basketballs, it's always the smell for me. It was all, I would smell it. And it's because it's just, that leather. And it was different. It wasn't, as you said, that rubber ball.
Yeah.
And outside in Fresno, California in the wintertime, when it's cold and it's bouncy, that's no fun.
No.
You really got to develop touch outside at that point.
Yeah. Well, take us back to your childhood. What did sport mean to you as a kid, little kid?
Yeah. Now I grew up with Atari. So, for all those that are out there paying attention, like Atari, it was one joystick, one button, and it got real advanced. Yeah. Now this Xbox, you got like 7 buttons.
No, we had Pac-Man and Centipede. That was it, right?
And and the sports, ping pong. When you turn, it's a bloop.
Yeah.
So, but we played outside and we played whatever was going on at that time. So if it's baseball season, it was baseball was my first love. And I have a story that I always tell about Calvin Young. Now, Calvin Young's brother, he came from a family of athletes. Charles Young was a tight end for the 49ers and they were all built like Diesel.
Yeah.
Like Texas boys, I should say. So, Calvin recruited me to play on his team, or I should say he drafted me into Babe Ruth. Well, I didn't want to play for Calvin because I wanted to play for my old Little League coach who was going up to Babe Ruth as well. And so when I got selected by Calvin, I was like, no, I guess I'm not playing. I'm gonna show him.
Oh.
And so after 2 days of missing practice, my friends were like, hey man, still come on out. We still need guys. So I was like, I had the bug obviously because everyone's going away to practice and I'm sitting at home. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to practice with you tomorrow. So I go to practice. Calvin sees me. Hey, Bruce, how you doing? Oh, I'm good, Calvin. You know, I think I want to play now. He says, oh, really? Okay. Well, I'll give you a call if we need you. I mean, like, I had to pick my face up off the ground, put it back there. Yeah. It was a fantastic lesson that I'm not bigger than any game. Now, Calvin called me that evening, but I thought he was never going to call me. And I had a great time with Calvin, but that was one of the best lessons for me concerning sport.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about your time with the Spurs. So those were some great years. What do you have a favorite memory? I mean, there must have been a million.
It's hard to narrow down.
It is hard to narrow it down to one.
Favorite.
I'll share this is that, so you all know I coach at TMI now, and a lot of the things that I do really derive from what I learned with Pop. And in that, I mean, the camaraderie, you know, we had, there's times where I'll get the boys lunch and they come in and people who see us eating together, they're like, man, they're laughing, they're talking with each other. And that stuff is derived from our road trips, from our practices, from our film sessions, from the moments where, you know, you might have to get on a player and then you can make light of it later on. But those things, those building moments, spending time, we play in different states sometimes. We'll go to Vegas, we'll go to California, and we go all over the state for tournaments. So when we're on the road, we have a college-like schedule. So we have time to study, we have lunch, we have dinner, and we've been fortunate enough to have some alumni that live in other cities treat our kids to dinners and things of that nature. So I take that from Pop and really delving into not just the player, but what makes that player tick. You know, Pop was really good about finding out what it was about you that was different from anyone else. And so I have that opportunity, and each and every kid is different. He didn't treat us all the same, but he treated, as far as holding us accountable, he did. Everyone was held to a certain standard. But it was no, oh, okay, you get a liberty because you're so good. Now, obviously, Tim would get some time off. No, but it was usually during All-Star break, Tony, Manu, because they needed the rest. But even with that, no one ever looked at that and was like, why is Pop giving Tim time off? Or why is Pop giving Tony? I knew that when we were finishing up practice, and if you ran hard, he was going to say, Bruce, go to the showers. Tony, go to the showers. So I was, so I could be one. That's right. So I could be one that's out.
It's almost more the off the court moments, right? I mean, you didn't give us your favorite memory, but everything you just said was more off the court,
you know,
right?
because there's so many memories, and you know, there's always these moments. Like Pop got me real good one time. I would play little jokes every now and then.
You really
exactly. Hard to write. So he set this one up. We're in a film session. We've just finished up our film session. He says, you know, fellas, and a lot of times coaches will talk going into your practice. And he's like, you know, sometimes you have to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes and wonder, is this truly who you are? So we're all we're like right here, we're zoned in. And Chip England at the time, he used to write something on the board, the little whiteboard, and I would erase it. Every time he writes something, and because I was the last one in. And so they had the film up once, and you see me walk up to the board, look around, and I erase something. And he's like, you know, look at this, fellas. Just tell me what you think about this. So we're all thinking this is this great serious moment. And here it is, me wiping off something that Chip did. Now I'm caught. I can't play that joke anymore. But again, making light of situations is what we used to do quite a bit.
Oh, that's great.
One of my college teammates has been visiting all week from Holland. So I've seen her a couple of times, and we didn't even really talk about basketball when I've been around her. Her mom's here as well. We talked about those off the court moments with your teammates and the dinners and the card games and the dominoes. I mean, that's what I remember from my experience.
See that, and that's cool. But see, like teenagers now, it's the PlayStation, it's the Xbox, it's Madden that they're playing, or it's NBA 2K and all that stuff. But you know, we get a chance to dial it back a little bit and go on certain trips. So we were in Vegas this year, and a friend of mine gave us a tour of the campus. He's an assistant football coach. And so he was giving our kids the realities. So when we went in the weight room while the football team was in there, There was no one talking and playing shenanigans on the set. These kids were in there getting their lift in. It was all serious. So it's one of those things where I say, hey, fellas, you say you want to get to college, right? Here it is. Look at what they're doing to stay in college. So it's always great that you have those types of lessons that you can share with the kids.
For the last 4 decades, San Antonio sports has dared this community to dream big through the transformational power of sport. For 40 years, we've inspired youth to get in the game, motivated San Antonians to live healthy, been a force behind places to play, and hosted events that impact. As we celebrate 40 years of dreaming big, we invite you to dream big along with us. To support our mission, donate today at sanantoniosports.org.
I think anybody listening would want to get your perspective on Wemby. And
he's tall.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap.
Heard it here, Bruce said he tall.
He tall. Thank you for that observation.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
You know, I had the opportunity of calling some games in France for him through the NBA. Yes.
Oh, cool.
And I've seen the development, and I was saying certain things. It's just the unknown, because no one has ever seen anyone quite like him. No one has ever seen anybody quite like David. Back then, centers in the NBA, they just beat one another up.
Yeah.
And David said,
couldn't move like David, right?
I don't want to do that. I'm going to do this. Let's see if you can keep up with me running up and down the floor.
Yeah.
So Dave brought a different dynamic to the game. Tim brought a different dynamic to the game as far as the fundamentals. He hates it when I brag on his ability, so I'm not going to do that now. But I'm going to say how good he was at the fundamentals, where he brought back a bank shot. People weren't using the glass like he was. And so now you have that transpire as number 1 picks. Then Wemby comes along. This kid who handles the ball like Tony Parker or Manu, but he's tall as David. And Tim
taller.
Taller than Tim and David put together.
I took my 8-year-old daughter to see her first Spurs game right before the holidays, and really to see Wemby. And we walked in, found our seats, and she looks up. We really hadn't followed the story right. She's 8. She goes, "Who's Daddy Longlegs out there?"
and
he tall.
He's tall. He Daddy Longlegs, yes, but he has such a passion to want to be the best he can be. Now, I didn't say the best ever, but the best that he can be. And he believes in the organization here to the point where he wanted to be here. This is where he wants to be. Now, think about this. You're being drafted in the NBA. You really want to be with the San Antonio Spurs, and you get to go to the San Antonio Spurs. This is one of those situations where it's like, you know, everything lined up so correctly, and the fact that we were able to get such a talent. Now, the thing about it, everybody's a critic. Oh, he needs to do it. He needs it. He can't do it. He can't. Oh, but each and every night you're like, oh, wow.
There's always this flash of brilliance.
30, 15, and 5, come on.
Now, exactly. But he understands what he can do defensively.
Yeah.
And
that was my question.
Let's go to defense. It's coming from an 8-time defensive team.
No, I love the fact that when you have someone who takes pride in that, because it leads to transition opportunities. I mean, Bill Russell, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, he really started the defensive transition because he didn't block the shot out of bounds. He kept it in bounds, and they got to going in the fast break. Same thing with Wemby. But the difference with Wemby is that even in transition, you didn't want to give the ball to a big man in a certain area because he was clumsy. Well, sorry, Tim. But with his handles, the way he can dribble, you're not worried about giving him the ball too soon or too late. Even if you give it to him late, throw it near the rim, because he stretches out and he goes and gets it. I love the fact that he can run the pick and roll, and you have these bigs who are afraid of the rolling aspect of him going to the back. He pops out and he can shoot the 3. Now, we're not talking about a guy that we're trying to get to shoot more 3s because it's more than 2s. No, he's a skilled individual and he works hard at it. But the beauty of what he does is it looks so easy and effortless, but it's really something that he's put a lot of time in. So I love the Wemby effect, and I think he has a bright future. He has a limitless ceiling, and it's just obviously as you continue to put pieces around a player like that, great things happen.
Well, talk about those pieces. Do you think any of the teammates he's got around him right now will be there in 5 years?
Well, they're young enough.
Yeah.
I do. I think Vassell. And this is the thing. Who knows what happens because it's a business. But this group that he has right now, people have to understand it takes time to gel. He's already at a certain area where they've never been. Now, you think about the past 4 years for Kelvin Johnson, he hasn't had anything like that. He's been the focus. He's been the go-to guy. Now, he has someone he can defer to. And it allows him to be that much more dynamic in the concept of the offense. So with these young players at that, yes, I can see them 3 to 5 years being here because you're not talking about a lot of tread on the tire.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic.
A lot of rings in our future. More rings, don't you think?
You know what? You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's something that we want.
Sure.
But I say being careful, it's one of the hardest things to do. You have to be fortunate. Pop used to always say, hey, you have to be fortunate and everything has to come together. The stars have to align. Even when you think you're the most dominant. I mean, I was there in Miami when we lost. And it was the hardest thing for me because I was no longer a player. I no longer had a voice within the guys. And that was the biggest thing that hurt me is that I can't even give you that support during the course of the game that you need because it's one of those situations that you got to really focus on the next play. I spent time with Tim, Tony, and Manu the day after that game and many hours with each one individually. And it was just one of those situations where how could this happen? I mean, stars aligning for Miami. It shouldn't have been that way, but it happens. And that's why you have to be careful in how you go about saying that.
Yeah. I cried that afternoon. I remember that game.
Yeah, I was sick. I was sick. I was still playing. I wasn't playing. And I remember
that must have been really hard.
But because my thoughts were I was working with ESPN. I'm like, I'm done now. Yeah. And and then you see it happening. It's kind of like, no. And once it went to overtime, it's like, it takes a different attitude now and that's how momentum is. You understand this. Momentum swings happen and it can be good for the team that has it and for the team that doesn't. It's not like you can't call a timeout to stop momentum. Yeah. It takes other things. And so, especially during that time there at home, it was fortunate for them.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I know you've been a big advocate for kids in sport and kids' health over the course of your career when you were with the Spurs and after. How do you see, I'm switching gears entirely, but a big part of what San Antonio sports does is we bring major sporting events to San Antonio, the NCAA Final Fours, national championships, all that sort of stuff. But on a day-to-day basis, it's a lot about healthy kids and healthy families in San Antonio. Where do you think we stand with kids? What do you want to see kids embrace? Why is sport part of it? I mean, huge questions. But
but I would love to see elementary schools as well as high schools incorporate a green juice machine on campus. And I say that from the standpoint, all the benefits of the vitamins from the vegetables. Unfortunately, we're in a day and age right now where we can't get all the kids the necessary nutrition that is out there. And that's what started my whole deal when I was doing the whole thing with Get Fit with Bruce and Buddy. It was because of the diabetes situation we had going on in San Antonio. If we could get kids outside more, obviously that's fantastic. But this great creation is also a big takeaway as well, because so many kids, you can see kids sitting in a group, but no one's talking to each other. No one's talking. They're all on the phone. And again, everything in moderation. It's everything. We have to get back to understanding the necessity for activity. Activity is not just for the young; it's for the older as well. And we find it hard to become motivated as we continue on in life because different things start to change. I'm 52 and I don't move like I was 32. It's like, whoa, what's the jiggle I feel in the back? Oh, that's that prime rib I had. But I would like to see kids more active because understanding that with activity, there's longevity. With activity, there's clarity. With activity, even if you have asthma, you can still participate in sports and you can possibly grow out of it. And you don't need the inhaler. So all those things. And I talk about green juice a lot because it is so beneficial. Kale has become a great friend of mine over the past 20 years. So
good.
I'm all for green juice. All
right. Well, it's obviously working for you. I mean, you were a great advocate for us back in the day when we had our Go Kids Challenge program. I mean, some of the longtime San Antonians will probably remember that. I think we did it for 15 years or something like that. But we trot you out to schools all the time, and you were always great. And the kids, of course, just adored you. And we had fun with it. But it was an important message, and it's one we can't. I personally believe we can't let up on.
No, we can't ignore it, Mary, and that's the beauty of I think San Antonio. I come here from, obviously, I'm a California kid, but the community welcomed me after Sean Elliott, and Sean is someone I looked up to. Sean, when he was at Arizona and how bouncy he was, oh my goodness. But coming here, the first thing I said in my press conference, I'm not Sean Elliott. I'm not here to replace Sean Elliott. I'm here to try to learn anything I can from him and be just as good in the community as he was, because his talent was exceptional. But when you have a community quite like San Antonio, and the way the family members look up to the Spurs, I'm very thankful of what RC and Pop were able to do as far as saturating the community, but with an understanding that, hey, fellas, you guys think you guys had a rough day because you went 2 for 10? Well, Bruce, you go 2 for 10 a lot. We need to work on it. But these other individuals, they are pouring their heart and soul out for you. There would be moments at HEB, I'm walking and an elderly lady would come up to me and be like, Bruce, you better stop doing what you're doing because I don't like it. And I would sit there like, yes,
was
Grandma.
that my grandmother? Yeah. I used to get the same speech after my games.
But it showed that they cared.
Yeah.
My wife's mom and her grandmother, my wife's grandmother, loved me from what her mom told me. She's passed away. I never got a chance to meet her, but she said, oh, Bruce, you were her favorite. She's like, oh, look at Bruce. Look at Bruce. I said, look at that. She spotted me for you, sweetheart. So it's those moments, but it's the community here and it's the love that people have. I can be in other countries, and if I see a Spur fan, all of a sudden you hear, it's crazy that way. So,
that's great.
I think it's just part of what our community does.
That's actually a good point. I mean, you and Tim and Manu, David certainly remained in San Antonio. Why? Is it that?
I don't want to be anywhere else.
That's great.
I really
it's
don't.
the Mexican food. I mean, come on, tell the truth, right?
So you got to understand, where I'm from, Fresno, is a big, my best friends growing up with Mexicans, so I used to have a lot of Mexican. There's a difference in California Mexican and Texas Mexican.
Yeah, I lived in LA. I get it.
But I don't want to slight any of those others here. But it is about what we were able to build here. I mean, I wanted to raise my family here because of what I received here. And my thoughts are, if they treat me this well, I want to be around that. I got a ticket in California one time going to pick up my niece from school. I was doing 18 in a 15 mile per hour zone. And I said to the cop, I said, you say you're trying to keep me safe. Yeah, you were speeding. I said, but I don't think I would do damage to a tree right now. But I was back home in California.
Yeah.
And I got a ticket.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
That wouldn't happen here. I don't think so.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Let's not jinx it.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm going to look for y'all. Remember that time we were doing that podcast?
Yeah, exactly. Re-roll the tape. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Vince Davis, a journalist here at the San Antonio Express News. It's now time to nominate your 2024 SA Light. SA Light's honorees work selflessly in the community, lifting others through their acts of service, innovation, and collaboration. If you know someone like this, nominate them today at expressnews.com/SA Lights.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your decision. I mean, you didn't have to coach high school. So
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah. Why are you coaching high school?
Well, I have 4 boys, and 2 of my boys play for me. And when I was coaching them in the little 6th grade, 5th grade, my biggest issue was there were a lot of coaches that were doing things, but they weren't teaching our kids. And obviously I played at the highest level. I felt bad just sitting in the stands saying, yeah, son, go do that, compared to, hey, what can I give back to the kids? Because I truly see it as a gift. I'm giving back. I'm paying it forward. Hopefully these kids will take something that they've learned with me and incorporate it somewhere else. And it doesn't mean that everybody's going to play basketball or sport. I like to believe that I'm teaching valuable lessons of life through basketball. So when a lot of these kids are in the boardroom, or if they're working in a group setting, it's a team setting. So the same characteristics of what we do in team, communicate, talk, hey, have those harsh conversations, but in a respectful way, it happens in basketball and it happens in business as well. So if I'm able to give our kids some of those tools, they're going to be able to take those tools and keep all the things that I've learned from others, keep it going as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I see it on a daily basis. I'm sure you do too.
Yep.
The people who have a background in sport can fail and pick themselves up the next day. It's the teamwork, it's the leadership. It really translates.
Failure is where we learn things. And when you learn that in sport, now when you have a failure in business, it's not as catastrophic because you can reflect back to when you had the failure in sport and say, oh, it made me better. And this will make me better as well. I just need to figure out how to navigate whatever it is. One of the things I share with our kids is I say, hey, I came up with an acronym for NO. For when you hear no in a job interview, all that means is next opportunity. Because there's going to be a next opportunity.
I love that.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
This is all things that I've learned in basketball that I'm trying to put forth. And think about this. We always talk about legacies, right? People are like, what is your legacy going to be? What is your legacy going to be? I feel like this. If we can have something live on when we're no longer here, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, speaking of legacy, it's fun to talk about expanding our high school all-star football game into a series and rolling out the inaugural basketball game this year. We're thrilled that you're a coach for our first time doing this.
Yeah.
And again, a next opportunity. Love that you're a coach for these high school all-stars.
I feel there's so much talent here in San Antonio. It's unfortunate we don't get enough recognition as we should because we have a lot of talent here. It's like whenever you hear things, I still have a problem with our airport because it's so small, but we're one of the biggest cities in the U.S.
They're working on that.
Well,
They are.
Shout out to our folks at the city.
Okay, but like you hear Houston, Houston has it, Dallas, but San Antonio has talent as well. You look at some of our guys that continue to play the game. They're letting it be known where they come from, and San Antonio is where it's at. So I want to have the biggest microphone for our kids and just show the world in the other parts of Texas that, hey, there's talent here. It's not just the Riverwalk.
Yeah.
But it is, you got Jordan Clarkson, he went to Wagner. This Brennan group that we've had, there's talent here. And it's like, and I'm amazed because California kids, we were skinny, we got up and down the floor. But Texas boys, they thick, 6'8", 14 years old, 210. I'm like,
growing big.
Whoa, that's it. They grow up big. Well, except the Bowens. But we're working on that.
It's pretty neat to know that we've had 5 high school teams between boys and girls qualify for the state tournament. I mean, you're right. There is talent here.
Well, and yeah, boys and girls. Clark last year, winning state, that's impressive.
That's not easy.
No, it's not. But usually here it's coming from somewhere. This is San Antonio. And I know that, it was Clark and Brennan that just had a game, went double overtime. And Kingston's sister plays for Brennan. She's young. She had 42 points in a double overtime game.
And she's a freshman, sophomore?
Whatever she is.
Yeah, I saw that stat line, which is amazing.
But again, and this is what's happening. So I hope that more and more individuals are starting to see that, hey, there's a gym in Texas other than Houston and Dallas. And that gym is San Antonio.
Yeah.
That's
Love
great.
that.
I love to hear that. Well, we really appreciate you being here. And when we wrap up our podcasts, we want to ask everybody about what the term power of sport means to them. Our mission at San Antonio Sports is to transform our community through the power of sport. And that means a little something different for everyone. So what does the power of sport mean for you?
Power of sport, that's a good one. Right off the top, I'm going to go with something so strong that no one can stifle except yourself. If you believe in something, it's not about what others are saying. And that's what the power of sport is. It doesn't matter what others are. It only matters what you feel in that and what you're pursuing. Whichever it is, which direction it may go, it's about your pursuit. So power of sport for me is that continued due diligence in whatever it is you're striving for in that sport. And it's not just the athletic aspect, but it's also the mind. It's also the mind, strengthening the mind, becoming more disciplined through the mind, through the power of sport.
I love that. It's a great
finish.
Great. Thank you very, very much for being with us, Bruce.
Game on.
Game on. Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce.
And thanks everybody for joining us. We'll always be back next week for you and invite you to go to sanantoniosports.org to learn all about this great organization and our 40th anniversary. Thanks so much.